Well, good evening and good afternoon to everybody today. Thank you very much for joining on time. I appreciate it. If you can hear me and see my screen, just go to the comment section on whatever platform you're using and let me know that you can see me. Hello. So Matthew here. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for coming along. If you just grab the comment section that you're on the platform that you're on, please do go ahead and just say, yes, I can hear you, and yes, I can see you, Matthew. That'd be fantastic, and we can get this show on the road. All right then. So I think there's a little bit of a delay between when I say something and when people are putting their comments through. If you could just let me know, that'd be great. Now I assume that it's all working okay. All right then, so let's get started. Let me just check. Okay, YouTube's online, Facebook's online. All right, excellent. Well, welcome everybody. So today is a really great event. First one for the year. I'm very excited to share with you what I'm seeing working in software and SaaS world right now. And I'm just getting some messages through. Perfect, great, everybody's here. So just grab the comment section. You can hear me and see me. Just get the comment section up on the platform that you're on. Great. So today is really about. It's not really about predictions. It's not about tactics or trends. It's about patterns. It's about pattern recognition right across the landscape of software and sales. Sales and marketing in the SaaS and software space. So patterns that I'm seeing repeatedly across this industry, whilst the market gets noisier, busier, tighter market. Budgets are being scrutinized more than ever. And what we're trying to put together here is a structure in which you can develop your own way of going to market and making sure that you really do win the game of sales and marketing. So let me go ahead and put myself to the side, because that's really, the slides are what we've been working on and making sure that are really going to add some value to everybody here. So just as I said, if you've got any questions, thoughts, comments, you want to chime in, grab the comment section, type in your comments, and you can see, and I'll be able to see them and respond to you as we go along. Let's go. So we've got so welcome introduction. Well, I might as well do the bit of introduction because there's quite a few people here who haven't seen me before. I'll put myself back there so you can see what it looked like. So my name is Matthew. I started my first technology business since I was 22. Now, that's not to tell you anything other than the fact that I've seen a few cycles. I've seen a few things happen out there in the marketplace over that time. And this webinar is all about what is working right now. I will reference stuff that's happened in the past to give you some comparisons, some stuff that's gone on. But really, the goal here is to make sure that you get really, really clear on exactly what's happening. So over the years, right now I spend my time inside sales rooms and marketing rooms with sales and marketing people and seeing what actually works on the ground. That's the most important thing I can share with you today. The goal is to create predictable outcomes here. The goal is to create a situation where your clients come to you and you develop a greater level of inbound leads. Obviously, we can do all the other activities that go outbound, but this is about making sure your business is really, really clear, really driving the success of your organization through that front end piece, that marketing, that sales, the strategy, how you think, how it all comes together. So this session follows the way that growth actually works. This session's about what I'm seeing on the ground. So that's enough about me. If you want to know more about me, you can look for my bio on my website, all that sort of stuff. But essentially, over the course of the last 20 years, I've helped a number of businesses grow and exit. I've grown and exited my own business. And the framework that I'll be sharing with you at the end is the $100 million blueprint that I implement into businesses that I've developed and my team has developed over the years. Now, it's not necessarily just my idea. This is what I'm seeing out there in the marketplace. I'm working with multiple businesses simultaneously, and it's really, really important to make sure that we recognize that this is actually what's happening now. Okay, let me put this back to here and we'll carry on. So first of all, I'm going to give you the agenda. First of all, I'm going to talk about the 4 main impact areas in your business. They're really important. And if you think about each one of these every single time you approach a piece of work, every time you go out there, you're going to be able to be much more effective. And this goes in a logical fashion. The second part I'm going to talk about is the evolution of sales. The evolution of sales is something that's been occurring for some time now, and sales continues to evolve. As I said, I started my first tech business many, many years ago, and I want to make sure that you have a really clear understanding of what actually is happening right now and how that's changed and how you should be looking at your market. So the things that occurred, the things that were effective and useful and important only 18 months ago, starting to wane. They're starting to get less and less important. So we're starting to see fewer leads come through. LinkedIn's changed its algorithm. There's a hell of a lot of stuff going on in the marketplace, and we want to make sure that you are up to date. So it's about the evolution of sales. So this part is about the people pay a premium for this, and I'm speaking about this more and more as time goes on, and it's not what you necessarily think. It's about features. It's really about reputation, and I want to talk about how you can mold and manage your reputation in the marketplace and why is that so important. And the last part here is the sales and marketing blueprint. I'm going to give you that blueprint throughout the webinar. It's quite a complex slide. So if you want the slides from this conversation, just go ahead and grab the comment section, type in slides, and I'll make sure my team gets that to you. And I've got a couple of bonuses for the end for those of you who stick around to the end. So in the past, this has been the way that we've been able to grow a business. So Ted Turner started CNN, grew a couple of, I read his book recently, and he had a couple of signs on the side of the road, billboards on the side of the road, grew that to, and eventually started CNN, so a global organization. So he talked about being early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. Well, the good news is it's not always like that anymore. And you can actually do a hell of a lot of things for free. You can put a lot of work out, you can put a lot of stuff out there, and the market's going to come to you. So the world has moved on from days where you had to just do this. Now, of course, if you do this, you're going to, based on the things that I'm going to talk about today, you'll be much better off. So let's continue on. These are the 4 main impact areas. A lot of my slides, as I said, are really quite dense, and so you can take time to take screenshots, or of course, you can just ask for the slides in the comment section. So first of all, your target market. So your target market is really about not just who you want to sell to, but actually identifying the best fit buyers based on real buying behavior. And this is what I'm going to talk about, how AI can help you with that later on in the conversation. Real buying behavior, commercial urgency, and that's super important, commercial urgency, we want that, and the problems that you're best positioned to solve. So when this is clear, when you get absolutely dialed in on your target market, the lead generation becomes simpler, sales cycles shorten, and the conversion rates and the conversations become better. So I want you to think about that is who do you sell to? Not just the demographics, but the psychographics. Who are the customers you really want to sell to? This is the important keys here. Then it goes to the second part, which is your circle of influence. How do I've said obscurity is your enemy. The more people that know you, the more people that can buy from you. So the definition here is be known by the right people before they're ready to buy. And that's a key indicator there. Before you're ready to buy, they're ready to buy. So I'm getting some messages through here. Yep, good. That's great thing about live webinars. So your goal is not reach or impressions, but constant visibility with your best buyers. So trust is already established when sales conversation starts. So this is, when done well, this creates inbound demand and removes pressure from sales. So because the evolution of sales, which I'm going to talk about in a few slides time, is really the most important thing you can think about in driving greater levels of cut through, pipeline growth, and sales. So the third part of the 4 keys is your relationships. So we need to build on and maintain trust through the buying journey. Trust is super key here, and you'll hear me talk about that more and more throughout this, and you'll see that trust element become super important. Well, it always is important, has always been important, but it's going to continue to grow in importance because there's so much noise out there. People are using various AI tools to pump out tons and tons of content. What we need to make sure is that you're actually providing value to the market. So strong relationships reduce friction, increase deal confidence, improve decision speed. This is where sales and marketing must work together to guide buyers, not to chase them. So back in the day, many years ago, we had marketing and sales didn't really work that well together. Marketing's over in the corner doing arts and crafts, and sales are out there playing golf and having drinks with the customer. Now it's more disciplined, more structured, and actually there's a lot more sales because there's just a lot more competition out there. Being good is table stakes these days. So we've really got to make sure we're stepping up our game. And the last part here is your offer. Now, so many times in the past, the offer has been, you buy my thing, download my thing, get a free trial of my thing. It's no longer how I need you to think about sales in the B2B SaaS world. So in B2B SaaS and software, we need to be thinking about creating a clear offer that moves buyers into meaningful conversations. So your offer is about trying to get them to engage at a deeper level because people just don't have the time or the interest to really spend on they don't have the time and interest because they've just got more things to do. They're busier than ever before. So you really need to engage with them in a successful way. So strong offers reduces risk for the buyer. So in the old days, buyers have had all the risk because they don't know anything until after they've bought. So which creates momentum and protects your intellectual property. So many technology people are out there giving away the farm. They're giving away so much information before the sale, and now the customer doesn't feel like they need to know. Or as you're giving away lots of free information and free consulting, what you're finding is you're adding complexity to the issue, and adding complexity is really quite a challenge in the sale. You want to make sure it's clear and simple. When I worked as a CEO of Velocity Selling, we worked with Fortune 500 companies around the world, and we always talked about how you would sell today and educate tomorrow. Solve the problem that the customer came to you for, and then once they've bought it, you can present them with, hey, our product comes with all of these things. You're a really clever buyer for buying this product. Not, hey, here's all the features, hoping one of those features lands. You're just sort of spraying and praying. It's no longer the way to go. We sell today, we educate tomorrow. We get really, really narrow and really focused on the exact issue we're dealing with. So the role of the offer is to progress the sale, not to give everything away. All right, so let's carry on. Because not everybody is your customer. So let's break down and give you a little bit more detail on each one of those 4 keys there. So not everybody is your customer. Seth Godin, if you don't know him, you're probably not in marketing, and he's probably the most published marketer of today. He's been around for a long time. He publishes a newsletter every single day. So I want you to think about your target market. Now, this is table stakes, so industry, size, and location. Everybody talks about that. We have a logistics company of more than $10 million. We sell to logistics companies $10 million in the tri-state area or in Australia, whatever the area might be. And so that is how everybody targets. They might even go a little bit deeper and think about the problem the customer has. Once again, that's table stake stuff. What I want you to think about here is really building that relationship piece, building that circle of influence, building that relationship piece by thinking about the role the person is actually in there. And that role is, how are they being measured? Because a lot of the times, and I was just speaking to a chap here in the office here, and so what he was talking about, and what we were talking about, is a lot of purchases these days are no longer based on necessarily the best, but actually what is going to make the person who's making the buying decision safe. So buying decisions now are not necessarily better, faster, cheaper, which has been the way in the past of our product is better, faster, or cheaper. Now, today, it's important to think about what's going to make the customer who's buying the product look good. And because people have been, they've been burned before, it's 2026 now, we find ourselves in a situation where most people have been burned in some format by some software. But if it does blow up, is there enough evidence in the marketplace? Have you presented enough information in the marketplace that if it does blow up, and it probably won't because your product's great, but if it does blow up, that they're not going to get the sack. So you're covering their backside. And I know that's a really interesting, or a little sort of a bit of a a narrow thing to think about there is your product not only a good choice, but is it a safe choice? And how do you build that safety? And I'll talk about how you build that safety, that trust level in just a moment. And of course, the next part there is values. Are your values aligning with the customer? And of course, also the behavior and how they behave. Now, those three things, role, value, and behavior, you can actually get a significant amount of information. I'll just put that to full screen in case anybody wants to screenshot it. I know that people do that. As I said, if you want to grab the slides, just type the word slides into the chat or the comments section of the platform that you're on, and I'll be more than happy to, my team will send you those slides. So the thing is, you can go to, for example, in Australia, it's Seek or even Indeed, and you can find the people that you sell to and find those roles, and you search for those roles, then you'll see exactly how they're measured, what their KPIs are, what their education level are, what their income is, and what their decision-making capability is. So if you're pitching to a warehouse manager of a logistics company, they may or may not have the ability to make a decision. So you've got to think about who's their hierarchy, who are you working with there? And of course, you've got to look at that organization, see if those values and the behaviors actually align with your business. Because there's never a lack of customers that are out there. It's a lack of reach. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. So let's talk about that. Oh, one thing I will do. Oh, that's right. We have, thank you. Hi, somebody's saying hello on YouTube. Nice to see you. So how AI is helping your targeting. So each one of these sections, I'm going to bring in how AI is helping your targeting, because AI is no longer it shouldn't be a black box. It should be actually a facilitator of speed. It creates an opportunity for you to drive greater insight. So analyzing CRM and deal data to identify which industry roles and problems convert the fastest. So that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. So not just I've made this sale, but who is in the pipeline? Where are they blocking? Where are they stalling? And you can actually pump that information into an AI, whether it's provided by your business or you can do that analysis outside. You start really pulling this information, and then what happens then is you get more and more narrow, more and more clear on who you sell to, and then you can actually deliver greater levels of value at speed. So that's how AI is helping sales teams in the B2B SaaS world right now, is they're analyzing the CRM and deal data and identifying which industry roles and problems convert the fastest. And we can obviously, attribute all of that backwards. The second part there is continuously refining best fit buyer profiles based on real buying behavior, not assumptions. Because we come in here with every business, every salesperson, everybody comes in with a set of assumptions. And when it starts getting stress tested against those assumptions, we start to see some cracks. Now, that's really, really great information we can pump into an AI. It's going to give you that information back. A friend of mine works for a very, very large software company. They're putting agents in. They're doing exactly what this is with seeing real buyer behavior, seeing reality rather than assumptions. Bad salespeople are getting found out. Good salespeople are getting the jet fuel that's going to allow them, and it's continuing to allow them to get better and faster. And of course, it reduces wasted leads. So this is the thing. I get these prospects, and I'm sure you get these as well every single day through, whether it be LinkedIn or through cold email. We'll get you 30 to 50 new appointments this month. I don't want 30 to 50 new appointments this month personally. I want 3 or 5 of my targeted perfect customer, because I know I have a very specific type of customer I work with. I work with my best customers are businesses between $2 and $20 million of revenue. They're B2B SaaS. That's my customer, and they've made a decision to put the foot down on their sales and marketing. They're making 2026 their most effective yet, and put the structure in place. That's the key there. So when you actually get too many leads, you do too much garbage, you've spent all your time filtering rather than actually speaking and adding value to really, really high value prospects. Now, of course, once you get that right, then you can go deep and put money into, whatever channel that might be, and you really hit the accelerator, but only when you're really, really clear. So let's move on to your circle of influence. Your circle of influence, if you remember, is the group of people who recognize your name, understand your point of view, and trust your judgment before they even speak to sales. And so the value there. Oh, so what type of business? I work with software and SaaS businesses between that $2 and $20 million range, across Australia and New Zealand and now North America. I'm currently in North America. So your circle of influence are these people before they speak to sales, because people are going to do the work. People are going to look at you. People are going to always grow. So always go out there and see who you are. They become problem aware. They become vendor aware, and then they're going to go looking. They're not just going to make a purchasing decision directly from you. They're going to look around. So as Gary Vaynerchuk, New York guy, has said, the number one asset for any business entrepreneur or personal brand is attention. And so the more attention you can get off the right people, the better. And what I've been saying to customers for quite a while is the only reason you don't have enough sales is not enough people know about you. I know that might sound a little bit uncomfortable, but if more people knew about you, the better off you'd be. So let's go into that. Now, this is the old model where people would have to do everything all at once. They, as I said, take a screenshot of it. Some of this is still valid, and quite a few of it is. Thank you. I'll just bring my face here. Cool. So with this, what we've got here is the old model of, how do we get attention? How do we grow our marketplace? And there's three main ways. It's one-to-one, one-to-many, and referrals and word of mouth. And so many people are out there trying to do this word of mouth thing, but they often come to me and go, okay, I want to grow my business. I've been doing it by word of mouth. How do I get more of that? Well, that's the perfect world, but you can't go ahead and put more money into word of mouth. But you can implement a referral program. You can develop more partners and affiliates and resellers. You can run user-generated content. And also you can host customer loyalty programs. So those things you can do. And I've run all of these for clients in the past. But the one-to-many is really how you should be thinking about that. And the thing that I've highlighted there, I've highlighted two things there. First of all, posting free content on social media works. And the most successful, the people who are really growing super successful businesses right now, today, are the ones posting the most amount of stuff onto social media. And it's got to be high value to a point where it feels like they're giving away too much. And that's why the objection I get from a lot of clients is they're worried about giving away the farm. They're giving away too much information. It's never the case. It's never ever the case where it feel like too much information is being given away, as long as it's presented in a way that is about education and help. Because genuinely people believe that if you can describe the problem as well or better than they can, you are more qualified to answer the problem better than they can. So have a think about that. The other thing that I've highlighted is Brew 360. There's probably a whole webinar about this, but this is LinkedIn's new algorithm, and they are prioritizing comments. They're prioritizing the platform in that comment section. So if you get in there and you start communicating with people, you answer comments or you comment on other people's stuff and you get comments on your stuff, make sure you go back and respond. LinkedIn will make sure you have more impressions. For example, I put a post up last month, a couple of weeks ago, and I got a comment and I answered straight away, and that person commented and went along. I got 90,000 comments on LinkedIn. Now that's it. I'm not an influencer. I sell to a small range of people in Australia, New Zealand, and North America. And I've only just moved to North America 4 months ago. So I am famous in the circles that I am famous for. That one thing drove 19 new followers. It drove 3 new clients into my funnel, and actually it paid the bills for many, many months. But just that's one post. I'm not saying not saying all you got to do is think about this one post, but it's about continuously putting stuff out there and communicating at high value, at a level of high value. That's the key there. So plenty of things you can do here, but this is what's working right now for us and my customers. Free content. They're posting free content, educational blogs, videos, infographics, social media, ebooks and webinars. Now Now the sniff test, or the test you should be thinking about is, would my target customer really like this? So many times I see content being put out there that is self-serving. Let's just say that it's probably not the best quality of thing, or it's some type of, maybe 10 years ago, if you took a photo of yourself in front of a Lamborghini, that was interesting. But today, people have seen too much of that. You can, rent half a cabin of a private jet and you can sit in that and get photos. That's no longer useful. Will my clients get value from this piece of content? That's why I'm putting this out there. I'm spending an hour with you tonight, this afternoon, to make sure you get as much value before you even think about engaging with me as a business. So put out free content. And then what you do with that free content is you run paid ads based on that free content. Find stuff that actually is indexed well, find stuff that actually the market has responded to for free organically, then run advertising behind that and change it slightly to actually drive people into your funnel. That is absolutely the way to do it. So you can run free content, get it out there, see what indexes, see what gets attention, then run paid ads behind it on that creative to really get people into your funnel. So the question is this advertisement placed in the right part of the funnel? That's a really key part. So the funnel, it's not a funnel conversation today, but there's plenty to talk about there. Almost went completely off track, and I looked at the time, we've already spent almost half an hour together. So the stuff that's worked so far, I will bring me to there. So the stuff that's worked so far, the free content, for example, this quote here from Sean Rennick from Nexusoft, so Matthew's expertise has brought a fresh perspective to our business. He worked closely with our team to refine our messaging and overhaul our sales process. By implementing his recommendations, we stopped giving away our expertise, which I talked about earlier, for free, and started monetizing our sales process, which I'll talk about in just a moment. It's been instrumental in driving nearly $2 million in new business in the last 3 months. So it just didn't change the product, didn't change the people, just changed the way it was packaged. And by changing the way that it was packaged, we were able to make $2 million worth of sales in 3 months. And the prior 12 months, they hadn't made a net new sale. They'd sold to existing customers. They hadn't found a net new customer. But after repackaging how we position it, they were able to break through and make those sales. And of course, advertising works. Advertising is important. But of course, you've got to have the skills to be able to do that. A lot of the time when people are boosting posts and doing the basics, well, that's like buying a chocolate bar in the checkout line at the supermarket. It's not there to serve you because it's good for you. It's there to get one last dollar out of you before you leave. And so unskilled marketers, this person, he was reasonably unskilled. So he had 32 leads for the cost of $900 in this campaign and 18 leads for the cost of $400. After our results, so November to January, after us, 102 leads at the cost of $900 and 80 leads at the cost of $460. So just significantly more leads, significantly more, the same number of impressions too. Like they got more impressions over here, but the advertising was more effective. And effectiveness is the name of the game. And as I said earlier, it's not about impressions, it's about effectiveness. Let's carry on. So how AI is helping you with your circle of influence. So identifying which topics and messages generate engagement from best fit buyers. Communicate with your clients. And you're able to pull that into various AI tools. And of course, Tech Talk have our own AI tool, but it's about drawing this stuff into your AI and analyzing this to generate greater levels of engagement. Repurposing core ideas into post, email, videos, and webinar content at scale. For example, one of our tools, we will interview a client for about 25, 30 minutes. It'll be a voice interview, and that can produce about a month's worth of really high value content. So if you think about it, but if you're going to post every day, it'll be about 8 to 10 days worth of content, depending on how much volume you want to do. So if you wanted to spend half an hour a week having a conversation with an AI, you could produce significant amounts of really high value stuff that's in your voice. So if you want to know more about that, just type in AI into the comments section and my team will get in touch with you. So, but that's not the point of today's conversation. So the next way that AI is helping with your circle of influence and growing your circle of influence is maintaining consistent visibility without increasing manual content workload. There is so much AI slop out there. You just see it all day, every day. What we need to do is we need to make sure that as you're engaging with your client base, you're putting that information in, you're communicating in your style, and you're able to communicate that back out so hyper effectively. That's the key there. All right, let's carry on. So know your buyer and the problem. This is where it talks about building that relationship. And what I'm going to talk about here is the real job of building a relationship is to guide buyers through uncertainty. So I know I'm sort of pausing for a dramatic effect there, but that people are in uncertainty whilst they're in that buying mode. They don't know. They haven't bought your thing before. They don't know if it's any good. So, we want to help them make sense of the problem. Better we can explain the problem, the more likely they are to engage with us. Help them justify the decision internally. There's very, very rarely are we engaging with B2B buyers who are solopreneurs. Never have I dealt with a customer who's a solopreneur. There's always got team. They've always got things going on around them. And certainly in my market, the $2 to $20 million software and SaaS range. And when you're selling your SaaS to that customer, you're going to help them make that decision, not just for themselves, but also help them justify it internally. And also you want to make them feel safe saying yes. That yes safety is super important. That's why you need to continually publish. That's why you need to continually communicate with the market and add value out there in the world. So when your customer goes to their decision makers and they go, well, I'm going to buy, this product, they can go find you online. They can see that you're well thought out. You see you've got great assets, great presentation. Yes, that's for me. So what good operators get right is they always get context correct. They always get reassurance done. They are able to provide direction. Direction's an interesting thing. I was talking to a customer just the other day, and they sell really high-end complex ERP systems. But they sell, they're quite a few a year, in the more than a dozen a year. And these are multi-million-dollar systems. So they sell them all the time. The customer might buy this once, twice over their career. Maybe they're a real specialist. Maybe it's 3 or 4 times they've bought it, but they don't really have an understanding. Most customers don't know how to buy your product. And so what we developed for them is a way to guide customers on how to buy. So the question might be, how many of these have you bought before? Or what was the process you went through when you last bought your ERP or your time product, or whatever your SaaS might be, whatever your software might be? And if the customer says, I don't know, I need to think about it, well, that's the problem. They need to think about it. So what we do is we then break down, provide them a document. This is the process in which people normally go through to make a purchasing decision. And that document that's sent through provides clarity and direction and leadership. Because as a sales business, as a salesperson, and as a business owner, you need to provide leadership, not just to your team, but also to your customers. Because if you can provide leadership to your customers, then they'll follow. And following means that you're going to have, they're going to purchase from you. And of course, framing the trade-offs. No product is ever perfect. And even if the trade-off is it's cost money, there's still a trade-off there of spending no money and buying from you. So you're going to frame the trade-offs. What's the value exchange here? How does that look going forward? So that's really important to frame the trade-offs. Knowing if you can identify the 3 or 4 or 10 trade-offs that occur when people buy your product, that is really important to then bring that to the customer. Have them understand the process, because you don't want them getting to the last mile or the last minute of making a decision, then having to think about a trade-off. Oh, geez, I don't know if I want to do that, or I don't know how this works. So it's super important to think about what your trade-offs are and make sure there's marketing documentation sitting in behind that. Okay, so how AI is helping build your relationships? Well, of course, mapping buyer journeys to predict where deals typically stall or slow. Once again, CRM data, you can have conversations with your salespeople or with your market. You're continually able to make sure to see where deals are dropping off. And once you measure that, you can start addressing it. If you're getting lots of people into a call and then they're not doing demos, well, then there's a problem between call and demo. If your people are getting to demo or they're not doing free trials, whatever your sales process is, it might be an old-fashioned sales process or a new sales process, whatever it might be. If you can identify the stack of the sale or the process, and then you can pump that in. If you've got a volume enough, you can pump that into AI. It's going to start saying, well, here's the breakage points, here's the communication. Now, the other thing with relationships, when you are in conversation with clients, is all of these conversations are recorded, usually. Well, give that to an AI. Have it analyze the data, have it analyze the conversation. start practicing how to deal with. I saw an AI the other day that was helping customer service agents deal with customer questions and deal with customer objections, and it was talked backwards and forwards. Really, really cool. There's lots of tools out there. Not a tool conversation today. This is a strategy conversation. If you want to talk about tools, just message me and we'll talk about it, and I can guide you in whatever direction you want to go there. The next part is triggering relevant content and follow-up based on buyer behavior and signals. If somebody's landed on your website and they're in your database, then you can trigger an email or a communication or a DM or something like that can happen. That can all happen. Yes, it's all automation. AI is obviously helping. You can have that conversation backwards and forwards, and there's some really, really cool tools out there. But triggering relevant content and follow-up. Somebody responds to an email, you can use, there's various ways you can do that. As I said, I'm not getting into tools today, but also giving sales better context, so conversations guide buyers instead of chasing them. And I've already talked about that. Lots of context. You can do research on the industry. You can get trends and analysis that way. Lots of information can be pumped to you as a sales or sales marketing person. Okay, so how do we get people to say, shut up and take my money? So how we do that is by building trust. Now, there we go. Now let's talk about with trust, and let's talk about how the old way and the new way of selling actually works together these days. Let's talk about the old way first. And I don't want to call anybody out who's on the call today, but if you recognize any of this sales process for yourself, then just know that you're also operating with an older style of sales model. So the old way, book a demo, book a meeting. Obviously, most people are going to want to book a meeting anyway, but book a demo meeting. What's the result of that? We're going to give them a free trial or do some upfront free work. Oh, we want to give lots of value to our customers. We're going to solve this problem, answer this question, do all these things. And in a sales conversation, that's one-on-one, which is inefficient. But we do sales and we do free trials. And a lot of people think that, well, I'll get into what they think. I've already got a slide for that. Then we present pricing. Oh, this is the pricing for you. And of course, we want decisions. The problem with that, this assumes that buyers are already clear on their problem. They're already clear on what's going on. And this also assumes that your product / consulting will create the confidence to go ahead and buy. Remember, it's a very stressful, it's easy to do nothing. It's a very stressful situation. Doing nothing is usually the default setting by most people. But of course, what actually happens is it becomes an all or nothing decision. Confidence depends on the sales skills and the relationship of the salesperson, and decisions stall when multiple stakeholders are involved. So if there's anybody in the audience today where they've got through the whole thing, the person you're talking to is all excited, and they go, yep, I've just got to take it to the board, got to take it to my partners, got to take it to somebody, and they go, maybe in the future, it's there's no be backs, as Simon, a friend of mine, said long time ago. There's no we'll come back. Maybe next quarter. There's just no budget for it. All these mini baby objections that come up, all these little roadblocks that happen the last second of the sale. That's because what you've done is you've not been able to generate buy-in from the entire buying group as you've actually gone to make that sale. Decision stall because really it's about personality and your personality, not the success of the product. And the product might, and also great products these days are sort of table stakes. You've got there's lots of people out there who are doing a good job selling, and promoting products that are doing similar to what you do. I'm sorry, there's nothing that unique about software these days, but you have to have a unique take on it. And if your champion has gone to the board, or your champion's gone out there, said, oh, we've got a thing that now solves this problem, somebody's going to say, yeah, but we've already solved that, or this product over here does it for free. So you lose the control there. So what's the new way? So buyers are uncertain, decisions feel risky, and confidence must become before commitment. So first of all, you start with diagnosis. Second thing there is you qualify. You qualify the customer, and the customer qualifies you. This is a trade, no longer a one-way street. They design the path. You co-design the answer for the customer. You engage them in the process, and you create a clear next step. So that clarity makes sure that so my slides are out of order there. My animation is. So this recognizes that buyers are uncertain. So we know that buyers are uncertain in the world, and decisions do feel risky, and confidence must become before commitment. So what we do is we create this new process, and why this works is it reduces the risk before selling, builds engagement and ownership, positions you as the guide, and moves the decision forwards without pressure. And there's been so many situations where I've actually we monetized the sales process. So in the sales process, in the process of selling, the customer goes, well, does it do this, and how will it work in my business? Now, if you're trying to sell somebody and they go, well, how will this work in my business? The great challenge here is that you have a good understanding. There's a potential that it's going to work, but they don't know deeply that it's going to work. So what we do is we bring forward a piece of the work that you would normally do as the onboarding. You bring that forward to create confidence in the sale. And I've got a whole process about that. So if you are in the comment section, just type in monetize the sales process, and I'll send you that training. That's a really good training, that piece of work there. All right, let's carry on. But yeah, monetizing the sales process is exactly what Sean was talking about earlier. Funnily enough, they always did this scoping discovery piece as part of a long-term engagement. But what we know about business and buyers is they will always buy consulting far quicker than they will buy software. Because buying consulting is a different budget, buying consulting has different scrutiny, and you can't make a confident recommendation to an organization unless you're a vendor. All right, let's carry on. So how AI is helping your offer. Let me go back to this one. Right. Structuring diagnostic and discovery sessions around buyer inputs and risk. Once again, every conversation is recorded. You can push that data and those scripts and those transcripts back into AI and have conversations with it to produce a really great diagnostic and discovery session for your client. Clarifying problems, gaps, and priorities before presenting solutions. Once again, you bring all that information into AI and it can help you think that through for the customer, and creating momentum by reducing uncertainty rather than pushing demos or discounts. I think we've talked about enough about that. So we're getting into the evolution of sales now. So the evolution of sales is something you really got to take notice of right now. So back in 1999, when I first started my first tech business, I know that's hilariously a long time ago now, I think about it. But what happened is we put in an advert that was 5 centimeters or 2 inches high by 1 inch wide, 1 column wide in the newspaper. And it had some reasonably good copy, but there's just not that much advertising copy you can put into a newspaper. And people would phone our 1-800 number. First of all, we advertised the newspaper and people made phone calls, which was amazing. And so what we did there is then they'd pick up the phone, salesperson would speak to them, and then the salesperson had multiple opportunities to build a relationship. They built trust, they built credibility, they told the story of the company, they did qualification of the customer, their qualification of themselves, they did diagnosis, they did prescription, they introduced people to existing customers. They did all of this work over a series of 4, 5, 8 phone calls. They provided documentation, they sent brochures out, did all of these things. And doing all of those things, I had many, many opportunities to talk to the customer, build a trust, all those things before they asked to buy. The problem is now in 2020, actually it's been happening for the last 2 or 3 years, but really 2026 and beyond is trust. People so marketing happens, they become problem or product aware. Then what happens is Google calls it the messy middle. Google's called it messy middle, where people become problem or customer product aware. Then they go out there into the internet, they look around, they see things that's available, they read reviews, they consume your content, they might see you on Insta, they might see you on Facebook, they might see you on LinkedIn, they might subscribe to your newsletter, they might download your ebook or something like that. So they're going to do a whole bunch of things before they engage with sales. Now, that doesn't mean that salespeople become less important. Actually, salespeople have to be much, much better than they ever have been, because that phone call is real stress for the customer. They don't want to talk to a salesperson. So therefore, the salesperson has to be really well trained, really good at building instant rapport, and really have a great understanding of the problems the customer's going through. And this is where I spend a lot of my time is working with businesses, helping them understand the value and importance of getting that one phone call absolutely nailed. And it's not about crushing and closing the sale. It's not about answering objections. It's about qualification, diagnosis, and prescription. That's when you can actually move into a sales conversation. So marketing is doing a lot more work these days. Salespeople just got to be a lot better these days. Okay, this is the key. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a very, very successful consultant, and I mentioned this topic to him the other day, and he says he's hearing it more and more and more through consulting. Is growth happens at the speed trust is built. And so the more trust you can create, the faster you can transfer it, the faster you'll grow. So how do you build trust in the market? How do you build trust when marketing is doing all these things? Well, you do it. So I just want to take a moment there. I want everybody to think about that. What does trust look like? Trust looks like reviews. Trust looks like your customers saying things about you. If you're going to, I'm here in a town. I want to find a pizza joint. Google's going to tell me which one's got the 5-star reviews. There's 1,500, and then the other one's going to have, give me the 3-star review, 3 stars with 200 people have mentioned it. Everything that we do now, somebody's going to go on, find the Google review, find the review, find the testimonial, and then make a decision. Nobody buys, very few people buy anything in a vacuum these days. So what do? First of all, here's some examples. Video testimonials are king of the hill, and when you can get a customer to say things like, "This is my customer work has improved their outcomes and process for Evo Energy directly." Evo Energy is like the second or third biggest energy provider in Australia. Second one here, the implementation from paper-based systems to fully digital one took about 2 weeks. That's for an airport in Canberra. And of course we picked those lines because specifically that's the problem the customer has the most, their paper-based system or improved outcomes and processes. Another thing you can use here is examples and case studies. So Medi Law increases weekly bookings by 150% with Nexusoft employing no extra staff. When you send that to a medico-legal organization and go, here's what we've done for somebody like you, they go, I get it, I understand the problem, I understand the solution, let's talk more. So, I don't want to read all of these to you. This is what I do. Before anybody engages with Tech Talk, I send them this document called What Clients Say. It's the 25-page book of testimonials. Literally, when we used to print it out years ago, we would print it out, but now it's digital. But yeah, they scroll through. They almost get tired of reading testimonials. By me implementing that, not a single person in the last 2 years has asked to speak to an existing customer because they feel like the only reason somebody wants to talk to an existing customer because they don't have enough evidence to take to somebody else that you're a good supplier. So your job right now is to get testimonials and reviews, put them into a book, find a way to actually get them on camera, like this customer here, who I've already talked about, added $2 million worth of new business and with our sales and marketing strategy. Get them on camera, get them on paper or on digital paper, and that's how you're going to build that trust. Because the speed in which you can grow your business is the speed in which you can build and transfer trust. Okay, here's the sales and marketing blueprint. Really complex slide. I'm going to rip through it because I've just looked at the time. We've got about 10 minutes left. So first of all, really clearly, this sort of brings everything together. So this is about bringing everything together for you in one spot. So get really clear on your target market. And we've spoken about that. It's not just demographics, it's psychographics. It's finding people who really are right in your sweet spot. The second part is developing high impact content, whether it be through interviews. So as I said, if you want to know how we develop really high quality content for clients, we use AI to help us. Let us know. Just type in AI in the comment section. So really high impact content. Develop content that directly addresses your buyer's pain points, providing value and positioning your solution as the answer. The third part is lead magnets. Now, lead magnets in the past have just been our guide to, or our white paper, or our ebook. But today, lead magnets, I see these really effectively happening out there for clients. We've had 14,000 interactions with clients. We've found a way to solve this problem. Would you like our blueprint? It's a one-page blueprint. Type in blueprint down below, and people can send that. And so that's a lead magnet, because that interaction, that conversation that happens on LinkedIn and other platforms is obviously it happens automatically on Insta. People type in, you type in a word into the comment section and immediately you get DM'd the answer. Well, obviously that data is being drawn through Insta, being put into your CRM, and it puts you into that sales process, subscribes you to their newsletter or their email system. So lead magnets aren't just the good old ebooks. Ebooks are certainly very valuable, but they're now more broad because it's about adding value. And the sniff test there is, would my client want this? That flows into distribution. Obviously, organic and paid. Organic is king. Paid is when the organic starts working. So if you've got to put out the organic process, put out the organic stuff, and then the paid adverts can come in behind it. Retargeting, obviously retargeting. By the way, if anybody's come on late, type in slides, and I'm more than happy to get my team to send you this over. I know it's a lot of stuff here, or you can take screenshots. So retargeting, re-engage your visitors. If they land on your website, there's enough technology out there to identify who's come onto your website, and then find them and follow them around the internet and engage in that conversation. The third part is SEO and SEM. So SEO and SEM these days is really about making sure that when you are publishing articles, you're publishing secondary articles as well that are AI enabled, because AI search is a real thing. For example, OpenAI, people from ChatGPT, are now going to start offering a lower price level with ads. A lower price level with ads. Now, if anybody here is old enough to remember the early days of Google advertising and the early days of Facebook advertising, is about supply and demand. And there was a lot of supply and not a lot of demand, which brought the price down. So today, there's a lot of demand and a limited supply, so the price goes up. So if you're keeping your eye on the marketplace here, you want to think about how you can actually get those out there and start working that system. So it's always supply and demand. So build your network. There's another thing that is so key. I've got a client right now who's building partner networks. A company I worked for back in Australia, they sold their business through partner networks, and we've got to make sure we partner with industry influencers, participate in relevant communities, and expand your reach. Once again, that builds your credibility, which cycles back to trust, because it's all about trust. And the last part there is optimize. See the cycle, understand it, add in whatever AI tool you're using, and then run that cycle again. The more experiments you run, the more successful you'll be. I was watching a chap from Ogilvy Mather talk about it. The people that experiment more are the ones that win more. When they're doing advertising, if you run 2 experiments or 3 experiments, there are people who do 10 experiments, because the silly ideas start to creep into 10, 20, 30 experiments. And sometimes those silly ideas really pay off, and you never would have thought that because it's too safe. So if you think about it, if you're employing one person, let me just bring myself here. If you're employing one person who's deploying one thing, it has to be safe. It has to be the right thing with the right qualifications, or the right creative, the right wording. But if you're going to deploy 20, you can get a bit creative. You can get a bit interesting. If you're going to employ 3 or 4 people at once, you can go with the 1 or 2 people who are the safe choice, and maybe choose the rogue guy or girl, the more interesting person. And what happens is that the magic sometimes occurs when you're no longer looking at perfect, because everybody is going for perfect. That's probably a philosophy thing more than anything. But when you're distributing ads, when you're putting content out there, put lots of content out there in different ways. So what we'll do, as I said, we'll do an interview using our AI. We'll do an interview with a client and put out 20 or 30 pieces of content, or 15 to 20 pieces of content. Some of that stuff will be bang on point and perfect. Some of the stuff will be a little obtuse, and that obtuseness actually creates, funnily enough, quite a bit of interaction. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I've absolutely nailed this timing. I said I'd be going for about an hour, and it's about an hour right now. So look, if anybody does want to, I forgot about this. Here's an example of forgot my own slides here. An example of a user journey. So I want you, as I said, put word slides in if you want the slide, take a screenshot if you like. But essentially, this is how you move through. And this can be paid or organic. It's the same sales structure, same process. You go from unaware to understanding the problem, seeking solutions, considering options, and choosing a vendor. And so at each point, there are drop-off points. And if you map this into your CRM, you map this into your process, and you will be able to see which areas are breaking down for you. And then you can fix those and upgrade your sales. All right, so today we've covered the 4 main impact areas. I think we did that. The evolution of sales, we talked about that, how we've gone from the sales being spending the most time with customer, now with marketing spending the most time with customer. So that's evolved. People pay a premium for this. That's the trust piece. The more you're trusted, the more people will pay because that you're a lower risk. A great example of that is so many people find themselves losing deals to bigger businesses that charge a lot more with much worse products. It's because the trust is there. It's a safe and easy option to buy. And then the last part we talked about there is the sales and marketing blueprint. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time today. The bonus I'm offering for you who have attended, thank you for making it all the way here, is a Focus Finder workshop. If you want to work with me one-on-one to identify what you need, what you're doing right now, what you need to be doing next, how you can actually grow your sales and marketing in the next 12 months, hit me up here. You can scan the QR code on your phone or just or type in Focus Finder into the comments section. Be more than happy to get one of my team to organize that with you. So I'll give you fully review your sales and marketing, extended Q&A, examples of successful campaigns and templates. I've got heaps. I've got 1,000 templates. And so in the industry, your industry, I guarantee you I've worked in it over the last 20 years and the cost there is free. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending the time with me tonight and today. If you've got any questions, obviously I'm available. And if you've enjoyed this, please share this with a friend. Thanks so much for taking the time. Bye for now.